I'm 27, married, and juggling life with one young kid. My boss, a charismatic man in his early 60s, is known for his professionalism and charm. I've worked with him for a few years, and we've always had a good rapport. One afternoon, he called me into his office with an unusual request. He explained that two international investors were traveling to the United States for the first time. They were curious about American nightlife, and he wanted to make a good impression. He admitted that he was not familiar with the type of atmosphere they were interested in, bars, clubs, and the like, so he had enlisted the help of a friend to help him navigate the night. His friend suggested that having two women accompany the group could make the evening more relaxed and enjoyable. My boss hesitated, then asked if I'd be willing to join them for dinner and a few stops afterward. He stressed that it wasn't about anything inappropriate, just a friendly presence. And if I could bring a friend along, even better. At first, I wasn't sure what to say. The whole idea felt a bit unconventional, but he quickly reassured me. He'd cover all expenses, and he'd pay me and my friend $1,000 each for the night. Our main role would be to act as designated drivers, ensuring everyone got back safely to the hotel after the night was over. The offer was tempting: dinner at a fancy restaurant, a bit of an adventure, and extra cash for simply driving and being social. I told him I'd think about it and check with my husband and a friend before giving him an answer. That evening, I explained the situation to my husband. He listened carefully and shrugged, saying he trusted me and didn't see a problem if I felt comfortable with it. Next, I called my friend Hannah. She's married too, and we've been close since college. When I laid out the details, she laughed and said, "Why not? Sounds like a fun story to tell later." She was also happy about the money. I confirmed with my boss the next day, and he seemed relieved. "You're doing me a huge favor," he said with a grateful smile. What I didn't know is that one night later, this experience would be much more memorable than I expected. Hannah and I chose tastefully sexy dresses and met my boss at work. He complimented us, thanking us for helping him. He handed us the car keys and a list of destinations. After a brief wait, the men arrived. First came my boss's friend, a younger, polite, and attractive man. Moments later, the other two men arrived, also in suits. Both were Latinos, one light-skinned and the other darker, both strikingly attractive. While polite, they carried a playful, mischievous energy, clearly ready to enjoy their evening. Hannah and I didn't mention that we were married. The evening began at a high-end restaurant, where the food was absolutely delicious. After dinner, we headed to a gentleman's club. We all sat together in a big, curved booth, and the men seemed to be having a great time. To wrap up the night, we went to a bar where we danced with them for a while. They also danced with a few other women, enjoying themselves to the fullest. By the end of the evening, they were tired and a bit tipsy, so we drove them back to their hotel. My boss kept his word and paid us as promised. Hannah and I laughed about the whole experience on our way home. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my boss. It was Saturday, and he sounded cheerful as he explained that the investors had enjoyed themselves so much that they wanted to go out again. As I spoke with him, my husband overheard and started laughing. "Go for it," he said, clearly amused. This time, the deal was slightly different. A limousine would pick us up, and if we wanted, we could even have a drink or two. It seemed like the adventure was just getting started. This time, Hannah and I left our cars in the hotel parking lot and joined everyone for the evening's outing. The night played out almost exactly like the first, except this time, Hannah and I decided to have a few drinks. We returned to the hotel around 1 a.m. on Sunday. My boss, noticing we'd been drinking, suggested we stay in a room to avoid driving under the influence. I called my husband, and Hannah did the same. Her husband agreed to pick her up, while mine said it was a good idea for me to stay and even encouraged me to enjoy myself. After Hannah left with her husband, I decided to linger in the hotel bar for a bit. The investors, who had looked a bit disappointed at her departure, began showering me with compliments. Their words were flattering, but their tone was suggestive, as if hinting that I might accompany them to their room. My boss went to his room, and his friend left in a taxi. The investors, however, kept insisting, their playful advances growing bolder. While I couldn't deny that I found both of them attractive, I knew I couldn't give in. After a while, I excused myself and went to the bathroom. There, I called my husband to tell him what was happening, that both men were bothering me. His reaction caught me completely off guard. "And what are you waiting for? Go for it," he said with unexpected enthusiasm. "What?" I replied, incredulous. "Are you crazy?" He laughed and said, "Remember when you told me about your fantasies? Well, this is your chance to fulfill them. You're insane." I shot back, but his words lingered in my mind. When I returned to the bar, it was already closing. The three of us took the elevator up to the third floor, where our rooms were conveniently side by side. The men continued teasing me, joking about who I might find more attractive. As we reached our rooms, the black gentleman stepped into his and, with a cheeky grin, winked at me and said, "If you change your mind, just knock." In that moment, I'm not sure if it was the alcohol or my husband's words, but I grabbed both of their hands and led them to my room, feeling a rush of excitement and uncertainty about what I was doing. After leading them into my room, I told them to wait. I slipped into the bathroom and dialed my husband. His voice was thick with excitement as he asked, "So, which one did you go for?" It was as if the idea of my infidelity didn't bother him at all, which both annoyed and thrilled me in equal measure. "Both," I confessed. His breath hitched, a sound of pure glee, and he congratulated me, confessing that his fantasy had always been for me to be with another man. But this was even better. "You're insane," I told him, half in jest, half in disbelief. He begged me not to hang up, wanting to hear what would unfold. I obliged, leaving the line open. Emerging from the bathroom, I found them both waiting, their eyes alight with anticipation. I placed my phone on a nearby table, the screen facing away, but the call still live. And then the fun began. The room was charged with an electric tension, like the prelude to a storm, each of us playing our parts in this unexpected symphony of desires. It wasn't just about the physical. It was about the dance of glances, the thrill of the forbidden, and the whispered promises of the night. The room was steeped in a heavy silence, broken only by the soft hum of the city outside. I stood between them, feeling the convergence of their energies, a palpable force that seemed to pull us all into a single, unspoken narrative. As we moved closer, there was this sense of entering a realm where words were superfluous, where the language was one of touch, of breath, of the slightest shifts in proximity. The air was thick with a shared pulse, each of us locked in a dance where every step was both a statement and an inquiry. There was an undeniable current of unity, a merging of desires that felt like we were navigating the depths of an uncharted sea together. The sensation was one of fullness, of being at the center of a storm where all elements were in perfect harmony. Time seemed to lose its grip, the moments stretching out as we explored this new terrain. The duality of their presence was like the balance of night and day, each complementing the other, creating a cycle of sensations that was both overwhelming and grounding. It was as if we were all part of a silent symphony, where the crescendo was not just heard but felt, a convergence of rhythms that spoke of something profound, something beyond the physical. In the aftermath, there was a quiet, a peace that settled over us, like the calm after a storm. I felt as if I had danced with the edges of my own limits, discovering new depths within myself, an exhilarating journey that left me both exhilarated and reflective. It was an encounter etched in the fabric of my being, a moment where I experienced the paradox of being utterly connected yet profoundly alone in my reflections. After the act, I gently asked them to leave. They complied, both kissing my hand in farewell. Their faces showed happiness, but a hint of shyness from sharing the experience. I closed the door behind them and then remembered the phone. My husband was still on the call. "Hello," I said timidly. His voice came back, ecstatic. "You've made me so happy," he declared. "Like 5 times in one night," he added with a chuckle. His enthusiasm still struck me as odd, but I felt exhilarated too. As I prepared for sleep, my thoughts drifted to how my boss had secured the deal, and I wondered if I'd see the investors again. The night had unfolded like a clandestine chapter in a novel I never expected to write, each moment a blend of thrill and uncertainty. The silence of the room now felt like a soft blanket, wrapping around the echoes of laughter, whispers, and the pulse of the night. Almost breathless from exhaustion, I drifted into sleep, the events of the evening swirling into dreams, leaving me to ponder the unexpected turns life can take.